Good day everyone, I am Bolardi Generos and this is my video presentation in Readings in Philippine History with the chosen topic, Tributo. But before that, let us identify first the learning objectives of this topic. So first, we have to trace back the history of the taxation in the Philippines and its role in the society. Second, to analyze how taxation affected Filipinos during the different historical periods. And lastly, to reflect on the relevance of taxation in the present-day citizens. How did this taxation system work and who imposed it? So, to answer that question, let us first know what tributo is. So, what is tributo? Tributo refers to a mandatory annual head tax imposed by the Spanish colonial government on native Filipinos or Indios during the Spanish colonial period in the Philippines. So when we say head tax, it is a fixed amount of money and does not depend on individual earnings or individual circumstances. So in short, that this tax applied uniformly regardless of their incomes. This tax, which was originally between 8 to 10 reales, which is equivalent of 1 peso coin, could be paid in cash or in kind, and a portion of its collection supported the Spanish colonial administration and the Catholic Church. So what is the purpose of this taxation? These funds were used to support the Spanish colonial administration, pay for the government officials and defenders of the country. So example of the government officials like president, prime minister, governor, mayor, or even senator and etc. who were required to pay tributo. Most likely a native Filipinos or Indios between the age of 18 to 60 years old, including various skilled workers like carpenters, blacksmiths, and showmakers and town workers involved in public projects. So, if you can pay it with cash, you can pay it with goods or kinds such as rice, cottons, chickens, and even golds. Consequences of non-payment. Failure to pay the tributo could lead to punishments such as forced labor or confiscation of properties. So, because of this tax, it results a hardship and resentment among Filipinos during the Spanish colonial period. And it also worsened the widespread poverty caused by the exploitative tax system. Therefore, if you can pay the tax, you are required to work on projects like building, churches, roads construction, and shape for a certain period of time. So, this is what they look like. And now, let's identify the positive and negative effect of the tributo on Filipinos and governance. On positive effects, we have infrastructure and development. The Spanish built infrastructure including roads, public buildings, and educational institutions like the first universities in Asia. So yeah, it is true that University of Santo Tomas was built at that time because as of now, University of Santo Tomas was recognized as the eldest existing university in Asia. Next, we have introduction of Catholicism. The Spanish brought Christianity to the islands, which became a central part of Filipino culture, influencing traditions, holidays, and architecture. And of course, Spanish did introduce Catholic to the Philippines in the 16th century and became a central aspect of Filipino culture, influencing traditions like festivals and holidays, such as Pasko and Christmas, and also in architecture like cathedrals and churches, and even moral and spiritual values. Next, we have economic integration. So, the opening of the Philippines to international trade brought wealth to the islands and integrated them into a global economic system. So, itong international trade happened in the mid of 19th century and indeed, it contributed to the growing demand for social and political changes which help us stimulating growth and introducing new ideas. Next, we have cultural and linguistics exchange. Filipinos adopted Spanish words and practices, leading to a richer, albeit mixed, culture and introduction of new arts and music. So, during the Spanish colonial period, Philippines experienced significant cultural and linguistic changes, with Filipinos adopting Spanish words, religion, and practices blended with indigenous traditions, leading to a mixed culture. So now let's identify the negative effects. First, we have loss of indigenous culture and identity, the suppression of native languages and traditions, and the imposition of Spanish culture lead to a loss of pre-colonial heritage. So before, the Spaniards, they actively suppressed Filipinos' native languages and traditions, and they forced us to adopt their own culture, language, and even the religion, which effectively erase our own pre-colonial heritage. Next, we have forced labor and exploitation. Indigenous Filipinos were subjected to forced labor on plantation and in mines, serving the economic interests of the Spanish overlords. Forced labor is one of the example of various forms of abuse, including child labor, poor working conditions, and even sexual abuse, that highlight how brutal is Spanish at that time. And lastly, we have socio-economic disparity. The Spanish imposed a rigid social hierarchy with Filipinos treated as second-class citizens and reinforced existing class differences, leading to ongoing socio-economic inequality. So during at that time, Spanish established a racial social hierarchy, placing Spaniards at the top and Filipinos at the bottom. So this system granted Spaniards exclusive privileges while limiting the rights and opportunities of Filipinos. So, what can we learn about this? How is it similar or different from the history and a modern taxation? So, what are the similarities and differences in modern day taxation in the history? The similarities were the tributo funded the colonial government and the Catholic Church, similar to how today's taxes fund public services, infrastructure, and social programs. On the other hand, the differences naman is the tributo was regressive and burdened the population, whereas modern system aim for progressivity where higher earners pay a larger percentage of their incomes. Therefore, in summary, studying the tributo provides insights into the historical use and impact of taxation, highlighting the need for equitable, transparent, and development-oriented tax system today.